Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Welcome to an episode I've been really looking forward and hoping to make for a long time. In this episode, I'm going to talk to you guys about the new vaccine that's been announced in the recent few days. This is looking very, very promising. I don't want to be kind of overexcited and jump to conclusions, but certainly I think we've got reason for optimism. We've had so much negativity this year that some real positive news is something I think we all need. Of course, we shouldn't jump to the conclusion that this is going to be a silver bullet for the whole pandemic, but certainly it is a huge step forward in trying to get back to normality, back to life as we know it, and hopefully getting this coronavirus under control. In this video, I'm going to talk to you guys about how that vaccine actually works, what we know about it so far, when we can expect to see it, and who's likely to receive the vaccine. And we'll also talk a little bit around safety and some of those aspects as well, as I know those are things that you guys have been talking about. My arm is going to fall off, so I'm going to get started this video, have a sit down, and let's get it all started. Come on. It really does feel like such a big moment. It's weird because you are trying to be really positive and optimistic, but also be realistic as well. It's a hard balance in medicine because we're humans as well, and we always want to look at possibilities for treatment, for cures, and for solutions. But you also have to have that kind of critical side to you as well, that analyst inside you, the real scientist in a way that looks at this and goes, right, let's evaluate this. Let's not jump to immediate conclusions, because of course that can be risky as well. With this vaccine, I think there is real reason for optimism, particularly when you see big names like Professor Sir John Bell from Oxford University, a kind of genius really amongst these things, saying actually this looks really, really promising. So let's talk about it. What is this vaccine? What do we know about it? So this vaccine has been made by Pfizer and BioNTech. They are, massive in terms of pharmaceuticals. We should remember there's about 11 or 12 other vaccines that are also in trial phase at the moment, so we're still waiting to hear the results from them. But this is the first real vaccine that's come forward showing such efficacy. Let's talk about the vaccine in a little bit more detail. So traditional vaccines or immunizations in the past have used dead or weakened versions of the pathogen or virus and injected them into their body, which has triggered a response by the body, by the immune system to produce antibodies, T cells, and essentially mount a defense against that. Of course, using weakened or dead, meaning that it shouldn't cause any kind of reaction or illness, as if you were receiving, the real virus itself, because obviously there wouldn't be a real benefit in that. But this vaccine is slightly different. So this vaccine is what we call an mRNA vaccine. Now, what that really means is that we take the virus and we look at its genetic code and use that to create a synthetic strand of what we call RNA or genetic information that we put inside the vaccine, we inject into the body. This is then taken up by our own cells, and our own cells read this genetic strip, produce proteins which mimic, if you like, the virus itself, but don't cause any harm, and cause a reaction by the immune system to go, hang on, this is a foreign virus. We need to create a response to this. So you develop your antibodies and your T cells against that. So in a way, we're training the immune system to recognize the virus without actually having the virus there at all. So it's really quite clever stuff. So the trial data and research from this vaccine by Pfizer shows that it has an efficacy of around 90%. So a 90% protection against coronavirus after 2 doses of the vaccine around 3 weeks apart. They have done a large study, around 44,000 people around the world, half of which will have received a placebo, half will of course receive the vaccine itself. Of those participants in the study, there has been no serious reported side effects so far. Of course, safety is a really important thing. I think we should focus on that. So a lot of people were writing in the comments when I posted yesterday on my Instagram saying, worried about the safety of this. Of course, safety is hugely important. When they look at any medication, there's multiple factors that come into play, but 2 of the big things we kind of think about is, does it work? Is it safe? Clearly, that's very important. In this scenario, 90% is very, very good. I mean, does it work? If it's 90%, that's pretty damn good, because if you look at things, the flu vaccine doesn't have that level of efficacy, and it's still very worthwhile. It's very worthwhile and saves lives every year. So 90% is really, really good. Is it safe? Of course, we've got data at the moment for a significant number of people, But what they'll be doing now is monitoring, as it goes on. If this does get accepted and created as a vaccine, we'll be monitoring, to see if there's any side effects. But I would say that is a significant number of people not to have had any side effects reported. Of course, don't forget, any vaccine or medication has to go through rigorous testing and review to prove that it's safe. Of course, Pfizer has announced that they're going to apply for emergency approval of this vaccine this month, so we might see the approval given by the end of November. But that doesn't mean they can skip any processes, or safety elements aren't being considered. That is always paramount for any medication or vaccine. I'd like to put into context for a second how impressive it is that we've gone from February, March to a potential vaccine now in less than a year. If you look at normal medications and vaccines, the process of development is several years. Some medications take 8 years from the idea and the concept being created, the medication kind of being, thought of and made, to actually, being on our shelves. So the speed in which this has been done is incredible. I think it's the reason behind that is we've had basically the top minds in the world, around the world, putting their 100% focus and dedication to this, working around the clock to get this to happen. So in many ways, if you think about the pressure to kind of find this vaccine has been massive, and people have worked so hard to get there, and I think that's why we've worked so quickly. So if Pfizer does get approval for its vaccine in the next weeks or month, then we might be able to see the vaccine begin to roll out before Christmas. I've seen whisperings amongst government and public health that the hope would be that a couple million of these vaccines could be made before Christmas. Of course, there's a huge logistical element to this, which is way beyond my understanding in the area that I work in. But this is what this is what I've heard, at least on the news. And the hope is that from 2020 to 21, that around 1 billion vaccines could be produced. And that's a significant number. Of course, as with any medication, any vaccination, side effects are going to have to be monitored over a period of time. I know a lot of you have said, Alex, would you have the vaccine? Would you have it in the early stages? And I'd say if it's approved by regulatory bodies, for all its kind of safety, regulatory purposes, and it's ready to be actually used, then yes, of course I would have the vaccine, because ultimately, if it is 90% effective, there's not any severe side effects that are reported, and we can save lives, a huge number of lives potentially, and bring things back to normality, of course I would have the vaccine. The next obvious question I guess we should answer is who will have the vaccine first, or how will this be rolled out? Well, first of all, I guess you've got a supply issue. Once you've got approval, you've got to actually make these vaccines. You've also then got the logistics of having to actually give it to people. Now, I've seen that the plan is to use GP practices, open 7 days a week, have walk-in vaccination services, so that basically you can vaccinate as many people as possible. Now, in the first phases, of course, that'll have to be planned as to who will receive the vaccine. The suggestions initially are that the elderly, at-risks, and frontline workers and carers would be those who would be eligible or for the vaccine first of all, which kind of makes sense. And the plan is then to kind of roll that out to the rest of the community as we've got the kind of supply to do so, because we're looking at a couple of million vaccines potentially before Christmas, and hopefully if they can deliver what they're saying, then 1 billion or more vaccines made next year, which is really good news. So I think there's a lot for us to be positive about. I think it's really important, however, we don't now become complacent. I'll tell you why. Because if we have a vaccine in the pipeline and we're saying this vaccine could save a huge number of lives or bring us back to normality, any lives lost now is a real preventable death in a way. Because if you see it this way, we've got something there now in the future which could potentially save a huge number of lives. So we really need to make sure that we are washing our hands, social distancing, following the measures, because we want people to get to the point of having the vaccine and protecting our vulnerable people. So I think it's really important we all continue to do our best. I hope this video has been useful. I feel really positive and excited that we have some good news before Christmas. I think we've all needed this and we all deserve it, really. So let's have our fingers crossed that this gets approved and we can start seeing it, out on the front line, being given to people around the country and actually protecting people against the virus. I hope this video has been helpful. If you have any further questions, drop them in the comments and I'll try and answer them in future videos. Have a look at some of my other content with regards to coronavirus too, and other health content around lockdown. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, share, tell people if you found this video useful. Thanks everyone for supporting the channel. Take care and goodbye.